Welcome to another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs. I am your host, as always, Wes, and joining me once again is my co-host, Mike. How you doing tonight, Mike?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
Not too bad at all. I guess first and foremost, congratulations to the Denver Pioneers picking up their ninth national title, tying them with U of M for most all time in college hockey. Um, I think they're up near the top as far as the last 20 years too, because I know they've won. I think this is their third one since 2000.
And
So
it's twice in the last,
5 years, 6 years.
I would say 5 years because uh, the NCHC has five of the last six. Uh, well,
I think they won it before you guys went back to back.
yeah, five of the last six because they beat us in the national championship in Chicago. I was at that game and it was well worth the drive down, but still a little sad that I drove to Chicago and had to watch the Bulldogs lose.
Right? But yeah, so congrats to them. They played two incredible games on the weekend against, really, I think goalie wise, they might have had the hardest path to a national championship. Uh, with, who was it, Drayden winning
Drive,
the Hobie Baker
yeah,
the, the night before the national title game, and we knew how Ryan Fanti was playing in the week before. So I mean, definitely a tough batch of goalies that they had to get through, but they had the offense to do it, and they were constantly in the top five as far as uh, offenses going.
and not even the offense, their defense and how well they played defensively. That was a huge part in both their win against UMD, 2-1 win, and then the win against Michigan and the win against Mankato. The defense had to be huge for them as well.
So let's go game by game, and we'll go the Thursday game, Michigan Denver first. It was a pretty evenly matched game. Like this game, I was the better of the two semifinals in my opinion. Both teams were evenly matched, but it seemed like Denver just got stronger as the game went on, and were able to dictate what they wanted to do, even with the high powered offense that U of M has, and the number of players that have since moved on from the university following the weekend.
I think that was the perfect example of, and we talked about this. It was a team in Denver versus a bunch of individuals that Michigan had. With Denver, you felt like you were playing against a team, and I really think just playing in the NCHC helped that. They proved how good this conference is, and the type of and the style of play that we have in this conference. It was an entertaining game, but as soon as Denver settled down, you just knew they were the better team. They
Oh,
knew how to play with each other.
100%. They knew when to make better passes, and they did a really good job of staying out of the penalty box. And that's the one thing that I think we mentioned going into the game is like these teams were so even that it was going to come down to special teams and how well your special teams took advantage of the situations they were put in. And I don't know that they scored a power play goal, but it was just the fact that they were on the power play and were never on the PK that made a difference in that game because they didn't have the same tired legs that U of M did.
Yeah, they had, was it three or four power plays, and by the third period, uh, I don't know who the Michigan coach is, but the
Mel, Pier-
players, the
Mel,
coach, the
for now it's Mel Pearson. There's some debate on whether or not he's going to be back next year. I guess he has 18 days left on his current contract with not wanting to talk about an extension when they were in the season.
huh, but
But there's a lot going on with U of M, um, and this year it's a weird situation that I don't know a lot about, and I haven't cared to know much about just because I don't necessarily care about the Big Ten. So
yeah, and but you could see the frustration level of them wanting penalties that were I think in the regular season you'd see them called, but they weren't penalties in the playoffs. They're not penalties in the tournament. And as the game went further and further along and they weren't getting that power play, you could see the desperation in them hollering about calls, the fans hollering, uh, coaches, everything. And we did talk about that. That was a key thing. Denver played an extremely clean game as far as the officials were concerned, and watching the broadcast, they were ECAC officials. Uh, don't quite know if they're used to that brand or what the ECAC has, but they let them play. They didn't they didn't call things unless they absolutely had to.
No, I thought the course of the game was managed pretty well. The penalties that they did call, I think they were clear and obvious penalties. It wasn't close plays that you could say, oh, you could have let them play through that, or things like that. And you could tell that the refs at some point were like, okay, we're not gonna make a penalty be the deciding factor in this game. Like, it's gonna have to be a legit penalty for us to put that as something that affects the outcome of this game.
Yeah, it was going to have to be a clear, no one else around, stick around the waist, hauling him down, stick around the ankle, hauling him down, punch in the back of the head, a dude's bone sticking out of his, like his femur is sticking out of his thigh. They weren't gonna decide the game. They were gonna let the players decide the game.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the bracket, Minnesota and Minnesota State, another excellent game. Drayden McKay had another outstanding performance. Minnesota State dictated this game essentially from the first minute to the last minute. There was one small mistake that Minnesota made, and Minnesota State pounced on it and got to a 1-goal lead. But from that moment on, it was all Minnesota State. Like, they were not getting out of the Minnesota zone.
Yeah, Mankato made that one mistake, and it was a 2-0. And uh, Mike Hastings, he said in the post game interview that it's kind of a 50-50 shot with Dryden if he's going to make that save or not. He's used to making him or seeing him make those saves. But that was just a beautiful play to put the Gophers up 1-0.
I would have legitimately lost my mind if he had made that save. Cuz it was 2-1-0, it was tic-tac-toe. He was skating, he was just sliding back and forth across the crease. He had not a chance on that play, and it's not one that you're going to blame on the goalie either.
Yeah, if he didn't bite on, I think it was the third pass, he was going to score, and so he bit on the third pass, and the fourth pass he was going to score. There was just no chance for them. But that was really the only mistake that they made in that game. It was just kind of what I was hoping for, honestly, and kind of what I expected. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer than it was, but Mankato, they proved that they've built a program down there that even if they don't play the toughest conference schedule, they can compete with anybody in the country.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, it's no easy task to beat them either. I think they were on an 18-game win streak going into the national championship game. They're a Hobie Baker winning goaltender. Well-deserved. The kid played incredible.
And starter.
Yep.
He started his freshman year, played all the way through.
And then the national title game was pretty interesting. Stop. Things are happening over here. Was pretty interesting. I did not expect it to turn out the way that it did. It was for the most part, Minnesota State was in charge of the game for the first 45 minutes of play. It was another one of those games where, like, okay, are we going to see a 1-goal game? Are we going to see a low-scoring game? Denver could not really get out of their zone for the longest time, and it was just Minnesota just State keeping the puck down low, working it around. If Denver did get it, it was one and done type thing. McKay did not really give them much to shoot at for the first 45 minutes of the game, and then, but you could also see Denver just getting stronger and stronger and stronger as the game went on, and it starting to take out a little bit of the Minnesota State stride and step. And finally Denver broke through in, I think it was like 5 minutes into the third period, and then it was the floodgates just opened, and they controlled the game for the last 15 minutes. Scored a few goals pretty quickly. And the Minnesota pulled their goalie early with quite a bit of time left, and it allowed Denver to score 2 empty netters and end up winning 5-1. And honestly, like, that score does not dictate how that game went, but at the same time, like the last 15 minutes of that game were not what I was expecting at all.
And Denver's the type of team, we saw it throughout the year. If you get up on them 1-0, you better get up on them 2-0 and 3-0 really quickly, because if you let them hang around, they're going to get stronger and they are going to come back, and they very well could beat you, because they had that much talent on the team, and they knew their it's kind of like the Wild, where if they're not even if they are put away early, they can still come back. But they almost seem to, if you got up 2-3-0 early on Denver, they would go down and they'd just be like, we'll live to fight another day. But if you, like the national championship game, Mankato's up on them 1-0 through 2. There was a belief in that locker room that they could do it, and they played the best teams in the country all year.
Oh, 100%. And
they were like, oh, nothing's no big deal for us.
For whatever reason, Denver did not get the respect they deserved this year. They were, in my opinion, they were constantly underrated. I don't know if that was just because they were out west and nobody wanted to stay up late and watch their games, or what it was. But this was a team that until late in the season were undefeated at home. They were able to come back and claim a share of the Penrose regular season trophy of the NCHC. They were one game away from being in the NCHC finals. They showed that they're national champion caliber clearly, because they won the thing. And they did it with a good mix of upperclassmen and freshmen.
And yeah, they had the leading scorer in the NCAA in Bobby Brink, but he did it mostly with assists.
Mm-hmm.
He had an ungodly number of assists, and that shows you how much faith he had in his teammates. Where you heard it on the broadcast, especially in their semifinal game, Butcher Grass, Bobby Brink, when is he going to do this? When is he going to do this? Well, he wasn't a goal scorer necessarily. He made everybody around him better. So he didn't need to he didn't need to be an Alex Ovechkin. He didn't need to be a Connor McDavid or an Austin Matthews. Well, Connor McDavid's kind of a bad example. On Austin Matthews, who they just really score goals.
Mm-hmm.
He just elevated everyone else around him. And it bothered me a little bit that they were just focused on him, because he has the numbers, when this whole team is top to bottom. They're the best team in the country, and we knew that watching them all year. And like you said, UMD was the first team to beat them at home, or in Denver, in I don't know how many games they had there, probably 20 some games before UMD actually beat them out there.
It was something like that, yeah. But and like I kind of preluded to, and I think you kind of saw it more in the national title game, but their ability to get stronger, I think, definitely has to do with the fact that they play and train at high altitude. So when they come down, they get a little bit of a natural advantage that way, even if they're the away team at like sea level, like they were. Like they're just going to get stronger. Their ability to suck in extra oxygen because there's more down here
Mm-hmm.
um, doesn't really, or it shows up later in the game than early in the game, and I think we definitely saw a little bit of that this weekend. But yeah, again, huge congrats to them. Well played games. Their coach, his hot playing career ended early due to a medical issue. He came in and has done a stellar job as far as being a coach out there, and continues year after year to be in the top of the NCHC, and now he has a national title to his name and is going to be looking to get another one.
Yeah, he's done um, kind of similarly to what Brett Larson has done at St. Cloud, stepping in for a coach that has a name, young guy coming in or younger guy coming in, and just keeping that momentum going and getting those, keeping the team on the level that they expect to be. Because out in Denver, that's if you're not good at hockey, they don't care, and that they are a hockey school for all intents and purposes, kind of like Western Michigan is, and well, a lot of the NCHC schools, they're hockey schools. So congrats to him, and I look forward to seeing what he's going to do eventually in the coaching ranks, because he definitely has it figured out, at least in the college game.
Yeah, I mean, going into next year, I don't know if you've looked at or paid attention to, and I know I've paid attention more this year than I have in years past, but the NCAA is going to look so different next year. Um, as much as we don't follow the Big Ten or Big Ten schools, U of M's going to have a pretty much completely different team. Most of their guys have chosen to sign their pro deals. I believe Owen Power might have even played tonight with Buffalo in Toronto. Um,
I know he was on the ice for a skate. I can tell you in a minute here.
the Flyers are becoming an NCHC All Star team with what they put on the ice tonight. Three players that were all competing against each other a couple weeks ago for the in the Frozen Faceoff are now teammates in that organization.
Yeah, they're getting spanked right now, 8-1, but
I
they're
mean,
young. They're not expected to,
it is the Capitals.
you know, and the Capitals organization in general, they're building up their NCHC stock,
Yeah.
uh, especially with their most recent signings, whether the ECHL or the AHL. Um, and it kind of started with uh, Hunter Shepard last year and a few other guys, and now they're just building it up.
I think,
Owen Power did play. He is in the lineup tonight.
and I think the newest addition to Philly from the NCHC was, I think it was Bobby Brink from Denver. I believe he jumped right to the NHL, and he had his debut today. So Bobby Brink, Ronnie Addard, and Noah Cates, all guys who were competing against each other a couple weeks ago for a trophy, are now teammates in Philly. Getting to play with some of the best players in the world.
And that's just it's super cool for them, uh, especially when you go right to the NHL, because these are guys, especially the older guys, no matter what team it is, you've looked up to them, you've watched them as you were growing up, and now all of a sudden you look across the locker room, holy crap, that's Jakub Voracek, that's Claude Giroux, that's
Well, not Claude, because I believe Claude got traded out, but you know.
oh yeah, he did.
And then you line up on the ice and you're, oh crap, that's Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe not as much as a player, but if you're a goalie and you go out there for your
I,
first start
I
or
don't
something,
know. If you're a defenseman, you're like, I got to get in front of that shot. Not a chance.
hey, at least it's not Chara back in the day, or Shea Weber.
That's true. 108, 109 mile clap bombs coming at you. Um, And then there was, I was just looking at it. Yeah, Michigan, the University of Michigan is losing 6 sophomore players. Um,
Yeah.
have all signed NHL deals. So big moves coming out of there. I believe they have they have a couple transfer outs as well. Um, their situation to keep an eye on with, their goalie situation or their coaching situation. Um, I did see, I believe, a couple more UMD moves. Both Colbys are have signed deals. Colby Bender went to, I believe I said Texas. That's what I told you earlier.
Uh, no,
And
Roth went to Texas. I have
Okay.
to look at Bender went to.
I know I told you what they were. I don't remember what they were though offhand. It's a lot of information to process all at once. Okay. So
Um,
Roth went to.
he
I
went,
know I didn't put who Kobe Bender went to. I didn't see it.
Bender went to Bridgeport.
Okay. So yeah,
So,
those guys are on ATOs.
mhm.
Um, and Ethan Frank finally signed an ATO with the Hershey Bears. He is now a member of, the Capitals organization, in their AHL team. We'll see what happens with that. I don't necessarily understand the ATO thing. It says that they're with the teams for the rest of the year. I don't know if that means that they have a contract for next season and they're just playing out the rest of this year kind of without a contract or like a partial contract, or if they're just playing there and they can potentially sign anywhere at the end of the season. Like it's I'm not entirely sure how those work.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how those work either. I would think that they have first choice, kind of like a restricted free agent, and they can tender them in a way, but I
Uh,
have no idea otherwise.
that might be something that we have to remember to potentially ask our next guest that we may have coming up in the near future that I'm gonna hint at for a while and milk as long as I can before dropping that bomb on who that's gonna be. So if you're watching along at home, I guess you'll just have to tune in and follow the Twitter stuff and find out when the rest of the people do.
Um, I am just looking at uh, the Hershey game from Sunday.
But I mean, I believe he signed his contract Sunday or Monday, so I know he just joined the team, or Ethan just joined the team this week. Uh,
Yeah, so they'll have
his debut might be later this week.
yeah, their next game is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and they play Lehigh Valley. So the Flyers organization, and probably maybe a
Means
few other.
means there might be a chance for Ethan to say hi to his old teammate Wade Allison, who I believe is back with Lehigh right now, coming back from another injury.
Yep, he
Um,
is.
so I mean, Broncos going everywhere. Um,
And also another former Bulldog, Jackson Cates, Noah's older brother, is down at Lehigh. So the boy, those Flyers love the Bulldogs and the Broncos.
right?
They know what's good for them.
I mean, it's not a bad spot to get teams from or to get players from. I'll tell you that. Been some players
And
playing really well.
I think they were drafted beforehand, but Chuck Fletcher, he kind of had the GM now for the Flyers. He does know the NCHC fairly well, just being the Wild GM previously before we canned him a couple years ago. So he knows how strong of players that he can get from the NCHC. How much he knows of Western, I don't know, but at least the UMD connection, he knows that Scott Sandlin's going to put out good players, and obviously the previous GM and him as well. They know Western puts out some pretty damn good players themselves.
I mean, chances are if you're playing in the NCHC, there's someone in the building watching you. So if you're not a drafted player or a player who had been talking to teams before committing to a university, just know that if you're in one of those 8 buildings, chances are there's somebody looking at you or seeing you, because they're there to look at some of the players that they do have drafted or are already scouting and things of that nature. So I mean, it's one of these leagues where you have to be at your best at any given moment, and there's definitely a path to the pros, whether you're drafted or undrafted or things of that nature, playing against these teams.
Oh yeah, and you look at just the rosters from this year. I know I don't know if Western does the same thing, but UMD, they put out their program on Twitter every game for their starting lineups, and they have who's drafted by
Yep.
whom. And yeah, you got about 4 or 5 draft picks here and there, but then at the end of the season, there's another 4 or 5 that are juniors and seniors that are signing their AHL contracts, ECHL contracts, whatever the case may be, that weren't drafted. And I know the same goes for Western, the same goes for North Dakota, all the NCHC teams. Yeah, the team might not be the best, like a Colorado College or a Miami of Ohio as far as standings go, but you still have that shot because if they're not there to watch you, but you stand out to them, you have a good shot at getting signed.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's the beauty of this conference is, yeah, we have top players, but if you're on top of your game, that scout might be going to watch, um, we'll just say Noah Cates goes to a UMD game, watches Noah Cates, and you're a freshman, sophomore for Omaha, and you start to stand out, they'll take notice of that and go back to their front office and say, hey, we should he wasn't drafted. We should keep an eye on this guy because he's playing at a high level against the highest competition, the toughest competition in the country.
Right.
And that's what makes the whole thing fun.
And I mean, it's not even like, teams have to really travel all that far from an NCHC arena. If you're in the ECAC or Hockey East, like, yeah, you might have a few teams from that area. You might have Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, any of the New York teams
Mm-hmm.
come and look at games. But if you're out west, like, you're going to have to travel a lot farther to get to those games. Whereas in the NCHC, you have, Denver and Colorado College. They're right next to the Avalanche, Vegas, California teams, um,
Seattle, Arizona,
Seattle, Arizona,
Vancouver,
and
and
then North Dakota is not too far from places like Winnipeg,
yeah,
Edmonton.
4 hours from Winnipeg.
Minnesota is not far from Chicago, Minnesota, like, and then even Western, you have Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota, Columbus, St. Louis, Toronto, like the distribution of the NCHC and the arenas, like, I think actually might be the easiest to get eyes on somebody. As far as, if you're a West Coast team, all you have to do is take a flight to Colorado. You don't have to fly all the way out to the East Coast. If you're a team in the middle of the country, you can go Nebraska, Omaha, you can go Miami, Ohio, you can, like, there's places closer
Mm-hmm.
to you to look at top talent players and top tier players and things of that nature.
Yeah, and I think the teams that are at the, as far as scouting, that have the biggest disadvantage are the Southeast teams, like a Tampa, like a Florida, um, like a Carolina. But there's not too many of them. Even Dallas, it's, if you wanted to drive, it's about 20 hours up to northern Minnesota, 20 to 24 hours, somewhere in there. You can take a flight there, the short flight out west. Between here and the CCHA, the new CCHA, I think they're the best positioned for teams across the country.
Yeah,
Because no,
but I mean, even this the new CCHA is kind of more tight knit between Minnesota and Michigan.
Mhm.
Whereas,
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
but if you're playing, even if you look at that, you're the away team. Say you have a game out in Denver. You're New Jersey. You're the New Jersey Devils, and you fly out to Denver. You know, that's I'm pretty sure the Pepsi Center is not too far. If it's still the Pepsi Center, is not too far from Magnus
Uh,
Arena. And if you have a day off and it's a Friday or a Saturday game when Denver's in town,
mhm.
you might be stopping in there to take a peek. Or Colorado College is only an hour out of hour and a half away from Denver. You stop in there and catch a game. Now that with the university or at the university with the hockey arena now being on campus. So I mean, like there's such a huge opportunity with these schools to get eyes on players because of the proximity to NHL teams or the proximity to a number of NHL teams. If you're in Detroit, it's only a 2 hour or 2.5 hour drive to Kalamazoo. It's if you're in Chicago, it's a 2.5 drive to Kalamazoo. I mean, like I think those things potentially help the conference too. And then 6 national titles. I think 7 since the establishment of the conference.
Yeah, and 5 of the last 6 because UMass had to go screw it up for us. Uh,
UMass and COVID. Um, but yeah, so
damn.
so and competing against those teams year in and year out. Like I was at the Michigan State game that Western played, which was supposed to be the first game of the GLI. And they only had one game that week because a particular school, who shall remain nameless, chose to not play that game, the second game. But a guy who
Might they
came,
have played, this weekend? That nameless school
yeah,
might they have played this weekend?
uh, that guy came. There was a guy who came up to me after the game, and he was like, "Man, when did you guys get so good?" We're not the same team we were when we were in the CCHA, but even at the end of the CCHA, like Western was a pretty good team in that conference. But he was like, I don't remember you guys being this good or that big. Um, so it's definitely something that's noticeable playing in the conference we do. Now as far as how much of like teams are looking at, you know, I play in this conference, let me build up for that, or are you the end goal is a national title, so you want to build a team that can win a national championship. Um, but I think I've seen it on the Pat McAfee show a few times, and they talk about one coach who's like, yeah, I mean, I need players who can stop Tom Brady. I'm not paying for guys to stop uh, Baker Mayfield or somebody.
Yeah, and the one thing that obviously the results speak for themselves, but yeah, it's nice to win the conference championship and everything, win the Penrose Cup. Winning the tournament, that makes a little more sense because you get that automatic bid. But you can tell with this conference, all these teams are built to beat anybody in the nation, regardless of who they are. And the results speak for themselves, which it's they're not just building for a certain way, like to stop a Tom Brady. It's well, yeah, we know he's great, but it's okay. We need to stop Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, uh, Patrick Mahomes, and it makes I don't know. It's just a lot of fun, and I'm kind of sad it's over.
I'm definitely looking forward to next season already. But yeah, if you look at generally the conference versus conference win loss record, the NCHC is usually at the top, and it's a very large win to very small number of losses. So we definitely can compete with anybody and everybody, and we see it year in and year out that teams that come in to play NCHC teams generally have a hard time, and then we just beat the crap out of each other. It's almost like when the Central is really really good in the NHL.
Yeah, it's um, yeah. Some of the Minnesota schools play a tougher non-conference just because we are playing Mankato. We are playing the Gophers, who are they've gotten better under Motzko, but it literally is everybody's coming in, maybe lost a couple games, whether you're Miami, CC, or UMD, Western, North Dakota, you're all coming in about the same record, and then it's like hell in a cell or elimination chamber in the conference. I mean, people are
Sure.
just getting destroyed, and it honestly is a little bit amazing that we've had so many national championships with how brutal the season can be, with how tough of hockey and how hard these kids fight for every single game.
Oh, 100%. And you know, it's usually one of those things that like it comes down to pretty much the last weekend every weekend as to who's going to win the regular season title. And any team from anywhere can win the Frozen Face-Off too. Like it's not an easy conference to win by any stretch of the imagination. And it's we produce teams that compete in the tournament and do well in the tournament. You know, I think they said we've had at least one team in the Final Four since mostly like since the inception of the NCHC. I know it's a pretty big run. Um, I think UMD, if UMD had made the Final Four this year, they would have been in like 7 straight Final Fours or something like that.
Yeah, because it was at least six, because lost to Denver, won twice, no tournament, then lost to UMass after beating North Dakota. I think it would have been six, and then they lost to Denver this year. But it would have been six straight Frozen Fours.
Yeah. So I mean, it's all a matter of each team still continuing to get better and kind of you know the upper tier teams in the league have done it, but the bottom tier teams have to figure out a way to turn exceptional seasons into the expected seasons. And I think we're kind of seeing that a little bit with Western, but we haven't quite gotten over that hill just yet. Um, and to continue to make improvements, but we had a historic season this year. Hopefully, we can build on it. I know there's been a lot of a movement around as far as players signing in places and or entering the transfer portal. Um, you know, the goalie situation for us is going to be something that's interesting. Whether we bring in a freshman goalie or we look within the portal for a goalie, that's going to be something that or one of the guys that did enter the portal decides to come back, and whether he was on scholarship or the school just gives him his spot back on the team essentially. Um, we did see Colorado College goalie Dominic Bassi decide to transfer within the conference. He entered the transfer portal and signed with St. Cloud State. So we've seen that a little bit actually between schools.
Yeah, even last year there was a lot of,
A couple guys
not,
from
I shouldn't say a lot, but there was a decent amount of North Dakota to Colorado College, or
Miami to somewhere.
yeah.
You know, one of the guys who joined Denver, he was from Bowling Green, not necessarily within the conference school, but you know, just a not too far away type thing.
North Dakota goalie went from Bemidji State to North Dakota, and they're only a couple hours away.
And North Dakota just got the goalie from Michigan State is transferred to North Dakota. Um,
I think that does say something about the conference, though, when guys are transferring within the conference, because they know that this is the best place for them to play and to get noticed. They just might be stuck on a team that
has
they're not,
6 goalies or
or in the case of the of Bassie, okay, well, Rennick is going to be gone. This is a really good team already. They were the fourth seed, but they could have been the first seed. They could have been the fifth seed. Just a really good team.
mm-hmm.
I have a chance of being the number one. Why wouldn't I go here in the best conference in the nation?
Right, exactly, and play with guys who are extremely talented and a slight upgrade, I would say, from Colorado College, but um, not much, honestly. You know, a quick shake, and some of those games go a little bit different. So
Oh yeah, and even their their first round matchup against North Dakota. 2-1.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, they could have been in the frozen face off just as easily as anybody.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Um, and even if you look at the frozen face-off games, it's not often that Western or Denver are shut out of games, and Ryan Fanti was able to do back-to-back shutouts on two incredible offensive teams. So he's going to be hard to replace in Minnesota, Duluth. Stay might be coming back for and competing for that number one job. It kind of depends on what his health situation's like. Still,
Yeah,
I doubt he's still 100% coming through what he came through.
I think if he's 100%, he's our number one. I don't. I haven't seen anything on the recruiting class and who we have coming in, but it's his job to lose if he's healthy.
But
And
that being said, even if you're a backup, like you gotta make sure your game is on point. Look at what Close did for Minnesota. He was the backup for the first half of the year. They lose. I'm gonna forget his name, but they're
LaFontaine.
yeah, LaFontaine. Their primary goalie signs an NHL deal in the middle of the season, and he's
Just birds.
he, he's
Really?
yeah he's bumped to the number one goalie comes in and goes on a tear. So not to be, just because you're a backup goalie doesn't mean that you don't have games to play or that your situation can't come up at any point. Or even look at Western last year. Brandon Bossy's injured in the first game. Halfway through the first game of the season, he doesn't come back until the last weekend of the season. So we're playing 2 and 3 goalies throughout the year, trying to replace one. So if you're a backup, like, make sure you're on point, do the things that you need to do. Practice with the guys, show up, and be a good teammate, because you never know when your opportunity is going to arise or what's going to lead to it. But you have to be ready.
And I think it goes even to the younger guys that are on any team. Uh, okay, you come in as a freshman, you might not play, but goalies, it shows up a little bit more. Look at what UMD has done before the Fanti Stay-Skull tandem. It was going to be that way this year, I think, again, until Stay-Skull had his health concerns. But Hunter Miska was the number one goalie, and Kaz Koskisua was the backup. He didn't play. Miska leaves. Kaz comes in. Boom, he's one of the top goalies in the nation. Shepard was his backup. Kaz leaves early. Shep Daddy comes in. He's the number one. So even if you're not playing right away for any of the players, just give it time. Show up to practice, do the right things, because your time, you will get your time. Guys are going to leave. It's kind of like high school sports too. Guys are going to leave. Guys are going to come in. But if you're doing the right things and you're showing up and you're being a great teammate and you show progression, you're going to get your chance on the ice. And the coaches notice, and then you have a chance at advancing your career further than wherever you're playing at the time.
Right, 100%. And we see that's something you see at all levels. A guy comes in and an injury causes him to lose his position, but he just has to work that much harder.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Just always got to be ready. Perfect example, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Comes in from an injury and, well, 87 years old and 2 hips replaced, but he's got 6 Super Bowls.
Yeah, 6 rings. Freaking ridiculous. I think we're going to call this like a little bit shorter of an episode. We didn't have a lot to talk about. I guess we can hit, players of the month if we want to for March and April. They were Mike Benning, Ryan Fanti wins goaltender of the month, and Carter Mazer is the rookie of the month. All, solid, well-deserved awards, honestly. I don't see any problem with any of those.
Yeah, especially with how Fanti ended the year.
Honestly, if he doesn't put that goal in on himself, Duluth is honestly a team that I think could have won as well. But I'm glad we didn't have to sit through three Minnesota teams in the Final Four or in the Frozen Four, whatever you want to call it. Perfectly fine with that.
I'm not. I do think we both agreed though that whichever team came out of that Denver UMD game had a very good shot at winning the national championship, and we were right. I obviously with UMD losing, Western playing the next day, I was pulling for Western just because I you're kind of my friend and I kind of like you or something. Uh, and I don't have anything against Western, but I still thought either UMD or Denver, whoever won that game, would win the national championship. And sure enough, we were both right.
Yeah.
I still wanted Mankato to win just
Mm.
because they're Minnesota, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take a conference win. That just helps boost the conference more and get us better players that we can brag some more. And even the NCHC had a post, I think it was yesterday on Instagram. Looks like we need to do some redecorating because they had North Dakota, Denver, UMD, and they needed to add the next Denver national championship to their wall.
Oh, 100%. That wall is going to get so full. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I honestly don't see it changing anytime soon, really.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the number of players that are being lost across the NCHC, like it's still just this conference is just going to reload, and we've seen that year in and year out that the top teams just they figure out ways to reload and continue the culture, and that's what produces these winning teams.
And that's what happens with the coaches that have been there for so long. And even the ones that haven't been, the Denver coach, he was an assistant. He learned uh, Brett Larson at St. Cloud. He was an assistant under Sandlin. He knows what type of players to get. And that longevity and the assistant coaches moving up when there's vacancies to other schools will just help that progress even more.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
the of college hockey.
Yeah, there's more teams that are coming in, so who knows what conferences are going to look like in a few years. There might be another realignment that happens, and we end up with something completely different than what we have now. So, um, but yeah, I think we're gonna call it there. I don't really have much else to go over. Um, we're kind of in a slower time right now. We're still gonna try and do weekly episodes. We have some things in the works for sure coming up. You'll
We do
know. We'll put out some stuff when we know for sure everything's kind of up in the air with the way that hockey seasons are still going in some places and not in others. Um,
but we do have guests on the horizon, and we're working on getting more just to have conversations and to provide content on all aspects of the hockey world.
and I do know for sure at some point we'll look at. I don't know if schedules are out for next season yet, but we'll try and take a look at those, and we might just do one school a week. Um, which at some point, maybe we'll change it considering we'll end up talking about the same games multiple times, but we'll break down schedules and see what we think of the season coming up. We'll continue to look at who's signing and transferring. Um, if there's anything that floats the viewing public's boat or something they want to know, whether it's a little bit more about us and the teams we like, or things of that nature, or if there's things that they want us to potentially try and find out. And once we announce who guests are, send us tweets. Our Twitter handles are on the screen. Mine's right there. Hey, look at that. Pointed to it right away this time. Michael's is right there. Right there. Yep. because I'm on the opposite side this week. So it's right there. I can point to both of them. Nope, you're the other way. It's still in the same spot. I'm just on the opposite side. Or the page Twitter handle. All those will be in the links on the YouTubes. You'll find it. If not, it's somewhere. Search Goal Horns and Fight Songs. I'm sure you'll find us. No one else is silly enough to have that long of a name, so
That's your not mine.
I'm not mad about it. Makes us different, okay?
Okay.
But yeah, keep an eye out. We definitely have some big news coming, and we're up to stuff. So we're up to something for sure. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one.